Hey everyone, I'm Tammy. Thank you very much for joining me. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. I'm really delighted to have you here. Please feel free to kind of check it out, um, like it, comment. Let me know if there's something specific that you'd like to know about. There has been an evolution in my work, so I'm here at this point in my life to teach, and I'm also writing about everything that I talk about, and I'm beginning to have healing retreats as well. So this is kind of the direction that I'm taking it, but at the same time, I am interested in sharing as much information that I could possibly share about essential oils and their relation to health. Ideally, we're not in this to control the body. I realize there's a lot of information out there in books and websites on what specific oils to use for like hormones and for this, that, and the other. And I get that sometimes we have symptoms, oftentimes we have symptoms rather, that we would like to benefit from and get relief from. So we do select a lot of different things. And so a few things off the top of my head is we never want to duplicate the mechanism of action, which means if you're already doing something, say for sleep, you want to do something that kind of supports the digestive system if you're going to use oils. Okay, you don't want to have everything doing the same thing, because it's kind of like just lumping all your, everything on one side of the scale and there's nothing else on the other side. So you really want to help round out the body, because technically the body is already aligning with nature. It's already aligned with nature. And so with symptom relief, or symptoms per se, they are simply an indication that the body is being overly influenced in one direction. And the reason I say that is because of the amount of types of chemicals that are coming in, more specifically, the environmental estrogens. Okay, if everything is acting, or a lot of things are acting like estrogen in the body, we have all of that stuff happening over here. And so helping to round out the system is really what I'm about. This is actually the reason why I started this empath alignment program. I vacillated with calling it caring for the empath. It's all the same thing. It's celebrating the fact that we are highly sensitive. It is an indicator that the body is in alignment with the consciousness of nature. It's really just about, although, when I say alignment, that means perfectly imperfect. Okay. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have the level of dis-ease that we have. But again, we have extraordinary number of chemicals that have a significant influence very specifically on the body. And so therefore everything tends to, what appears to be out of balance, it's just unstable, because like I said, everything's being lumped onto one side. In this case, estrogen being a primary signaling molecule, it is activating the immune system, it is activating the fight or flight response, the autonomic nervous system. So it's doing a lot of that. So again, if we can learn how to if we can learn how to actually, or accept the fact that we can begin to use essential oils in a way that are more nurturing, more stabilizing, and again, not duplicating the mechanism of action if we're already doing something for any particular symptom. That goes for whether you're using herbs or medications or any particular supplement. You don't want to duplicate. Now, that said, nutritional supplements and oils are very different. Okay, oils are signaling molecules like many chemicals. A lot of chemicals are what they classify as lipophilic, and essential oils are also lipophilic, and they have the ability to affect genetic receptor activity just like our hormones and just like other environmental chemicals. So again, learning how to balance all that out, which is actually something I also teach in the wellness breakthrough. It used to be called aromatherapy as a lifestyle, but I just changed it because it wasn't resonating with me. It just wasn't capturing the full essence of the program. The wellness breakthrough, on the other hand, is that it is actually a different format for approaching health in a way that allows the body to heal as opposed to trying to control the body. So that's enough on that. But really what brings me here today is the idea, and we can actually probably roll into take what I just said and kind of add that to this, which is the method of Application. Now we can place it on the skin. If there is an area of pain and discomfort, or there's a rash, you can definitely apply it topically. There's a lot of questions whether or not to ingest them, meaning to take them internally by mouth. I do not agree with that, primarily because at that point it's being broken down, especially if you're taking it in capsule form. The digestive system is already um, been altered as a result of all of these environmental chemicals that I just mentioned. So the digestive system alone is not even breaking things down effectively. And because oils are already secondary metabolites from plants, the idea of breaking them down even further doesn't compute for me. But there are other ways to take them internally, and I do talk about that in the courses, and I can tell you that here, and that is just to sit in a bathtub. If you're a female, you're going to absorb it through both the vagina as well as the rectum. If you're male, you're going to just get it through the rectum. But either way, I mean, it's all good because there's blood vessels right there at the opening, at the area of the opening capillaries. So it just gets absorbed right into the bloodstream, and it metabolizes within 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer depending on your system. But that's generally about how long it takes for it to circulate throughout the entire body. However, inhalation is extraordinarily important, and many people, I don't think we really understand or recognize or appreciate the benefit of inhaling. Now, when I've worked in treatment facilities and I had patients or clients in my case that we would use oils PRN, which means as needed. They had their own specific blend. A lot of them were cases of dissociative disorder, and they would go into flashbacks. Other times it was just people in recovery from addiction, and we would use oils for that, for treatment of anxiety, addressing anxiety. And a lot of these people, well, first of all, because they were in a hospital treatment type setting, they weren't allowed to carry glass bottles around with them. So these oils were stored in their own particular cubby where we had their medications and so forth. These blends were designed in a way that didn't conflict with the medications, and they were there for them to access whenever they needed them. And oftentimes it was just inhalation. And the reason that I recommend inhalation, number one, is because the olfactory bulb sits at the top of the nose, and just the act of inhaling begins to activate the brain. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you may or may not. I don't know, but so we know that with Parkinson's, there's a decrease in dopamine levels in the brain. Okay, that's because dopamine's being used in other ways, and so there's not enough to maintain brain activity, such as movement and such. So that said, oftentimes the sense of smell actually is diminished if it's not already gone, and most people, that's one of the very first signs of Parkinson's is they lose their sense of smell. So truthfully, given the world that we live in, high levels of heavy metals is going to affect your dopamine levels. And I can briefly explain that to you here if you haven't seen the other videos on this. Dopamine is actually used, it's oxidized in the brain and used to help store these heavy metals. That's one of the reasons why we have lower dopamine levels. So dopamine is directly involved with heavy metals. And again, we have an environment high in heavy metals. So it's already affecting. And if you want to see even more evidence of this, when we are first born, the substantia nigra in the brain is the same color as the rest of the brain. By the time we're a year old, it's black because it's already storing heavy metals. So no wonder we're seeing more and more children with ADHD. Again, this is all dopamine related, and the progression goes on. We don't know. There's no clear shot as to which particular neurochemical affects anxiety. I just did a blog post on that, and the reason I'm saying this is because dopamine can be indicated in anxiety. So fluctuations in the brain chemistry are always happening, and any mood disorder or potential mood issue can arise as a result of these fluctuations. However, like I was saying, with heavy metals, dopamine gets used. We do, especially if you live in more heavily populated areas, there's a lot more heavy metal in the air due to car emissions. And so therefore, dopamine is a big concern. So deliberately smelling oils actually, as I mentioned, activates the area of the brain. You know, it's the cerebral cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala. I always struggle over that one. Amygdala. I had to think about it. I had to look at the word in my head and think about it. It's amygdala. Okay. And the hippocampus and the amygdala are where a lot of the dopamine receptors are. So this is an important activity. Not to mention the fact sesquiterpenes, which are a type of terpene in the essential oils, do in fact cross the blood-brain barrier and have direct impact on the brain just through the act of inhalation. And as I mentioned, the the deliberate inhalation through the nose stimulates those areas of the brain, which helps to signal the need for these chemicals. And again, the reduction of our sense of smell is one of the first signs of Parkinson's. So that is one of the biggest reasons why I like the inhalation of them. I'm not saying not to apply them topically, but given the level of depression and anxiety and other sensory issues that we are having these days, even being empathic, the simple act of inhaling them has a world of effect on the brain and the entire body. And why is that even important? It goes back to what I was saying earlier, because first and foremost, the deliberate deep breath, I mean, granted, you can take a deeper breath if you're breathing through your mouth, typically, but that deep breath through the nose signals the parasympathetic nervous system that it's okay to relax. So now you're adjusting acetylcholine levels, you're supporting a better digestive process just in the act of breathing deeply. Now, if you include oils in that, you can also improve the way the body is utilizing the neurochemistry, because the neurochemistry doesn't just stick to the brain. It's used throughout the body. It's used in regulating our heartbeat. It's used in regulating our breathing rate. They are actually, all of them are indicated in some form of immune function, which means they're now being referred to as immunomodulators, pardon me. Neuroimmunomodulators, because scientists are recognizing the value of these neurotransmitters that are being used, again, like I said, in the immune system. So helping the brain and the body to actually work as a unit is what inhalation really does. So again, if you have a topical issue, by all means use the oils as a topical on the directly on the area, but don't hesitate to inhale it too. Even if you're just going to waft it from the bottle or put a drop under your nose, you're going to add benefit because it's helping to improve brain health. And believe it or not, there are plenty of studies at this point, and I was just reading through a few of them, that dopamine transporters are actually in the brain. Our dopamine transporters are actually in the nasal mucosa. And so they've discovered that the administration of dopamine through the nose, intranasally, actually helps to improve blood levels of dopamine and circulating throughout the body and into the brain. Well, I find that fascinating because they've also discovered that there's a number of essential oils that they've been able to activate the dopamine transporters and improve the production of dopamine in the brain, which is a bonus for people in recovery from addiction. A huge bonus. So there you go. There's even more evidence as to why including oils in the area of addiction recovery is phenomenal. Again, dissociative disorders, any kind of mood disorders. So I'm here to tell you, start 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 sniffing. Smell your way back to health. Actually, that's the premise of the retreats that I'm doing, is using the sense of smell for healing. So on that note, I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are. Thank you very much for tuning in. And like I said, let me know if there's something you'd like to hear more on. I'm always here for you because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach. And so thanks for watching, and I will talk with you later.